होप लोन्स इनिशिएटिव। इस त्योहार के अवसर पर आप जो लोन लेंगे उस लोन के बदले SBI कुछ धनराशि NGOs के नाम करेगा, जिससे देश में बदलाव का एक नया सवेरा जागेगा। SBI का हर लोन होप लोन।
A period of steady growth over the last few years. Rising income levels, government initiatives to boost affordable housing, migration to cities, and rapid urbanization underpin the strong fundamentals of this industry.
जब आप SBI से होम लोन लेंगे तब खुशियाँ सिर्फ आपके घर ही नहीं, सोम और पीहू के गांव भी आएंगे, नई रोशनी के साथ। SBI का होप लोन। इस त्योहार के अवसर पर आपका SBI से लिया लोन उम्मीद बनकर किसी की जिंदगी बदल सकता है। SBI का हर लोन होप लोन।
To start the proceedings, may I please invite our esteemed guest, Shri Sriram Kalyanaraman, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, National Housing Bank, on the stage to deliver a special address.
Background of the 68% of the growth population, the balance being in urban. With the 2.9 square kilometers area, the challenge of giving in 6 crore houses, which is the vision laid down by our Prime Minister, is humongous and challenging. But let's also look at the changing landscape, the movable challenge in that. We have 32% of the population in urban areas, and it's estimated in another 5 years this would grow to about 38, and in about another 8 or 9 years this would reach 40%. Look at the challenges it is going to throw on the infrastructure, on the various transport systems which we need to create, and of course the opportunities which it would give, especially on the affordable housing sector. Many of times when I speak this, I am always told, oh, this is such a complicated job. I always have this as an answer. There is nothing called complicated, right? One of my friends went to Australia and he actually texted, they all work in the universities, they all work part-time, and he said, I'm doing aquathermal treatment of ceramics under constrained environment. So we were all wondering, what does this mean? And from a commerce student, till about few hours later, he tweeted, I'm washing plates in a restaurant, right? So in a way of speaking, everything when we look at a whole looks complicated till we break it down into the minor action points and pieces, which briefly I would cover. The migration to urban areas is a worldwide phenomenon, and it happens, as the Honorable Minister for Housing, Venkaiah Naidu ji, puts it, due to the 4 E's: education, employment, entertainment, and enhanced medical facilities. The government has also realized it fully and launched what is called as a Rurban Mission, RURBAN, to accelerate rural development with the urban mission. Of course, that is probably at the early stages, and we'll see more actions on that. What is happening on the landscape? The housing sector, as I said, has a very strong linkages to 250 allied industries. And by the last statistics, I'm told has overtaken even technology as the second largest employer after agriculture. 1.24% of the output of the economy, and total construction sector is about 12% as per the RBA statistics. So Gidamba, don't worry, government will consider most of the things to facilitate this industry. Okay, how is the shifting? The shift is shifting, demand shifting to end-use customers and to affordable houses. A, because of lot of focus given on the affordable housing segment, and two, also because of the fact that the 7th Pay Commission has put a lot of money into people's hands, where people can really expect to buy houses at the 15, 20, 25 lakhs range. Homes are getting a little smaller. The last statistics said from 1217, and this is average size has gone to 1181. But let's also be careful. When I say average size, it's like trying to cross the river using its average depth. Let's not make that mistake. But as I travel now across the country, I see many private developers quite keen and really working to get in affordable housing in place. There are people who are talking about 30,000 houses in the outskirts of Bombay. There are people who talk about 10 or 12,000 houses in Karnataka. So things, I've never heard this. I've been in mortgage industry for some time now, and I've never heard these kind of discussions. So at least it started moving is a very good thing. There seems to be a lot of demand by the last statistics put out in Bengaluru, Mumbai, and Pune, so as to say, on the affordable housing on the metros. Now, this is very clearly a changing concept. But as we know, a lot of things keep on changing, right? 10 years ago, if we had gone and told somebody Windows, it would have been a square hole in a room. And application was what we used to write in a piece of paper. Cloud was in the skies. Skype probably was a typo. If we say web, it's a spider's home. That is how we used to teach our children. And virus was a flu, which is treated by a doctor. Today, if you go and talk this to even a 3-year-old, he will probably look at us like we have landed up from an alien planet or we are aliens, right? So similarly, many things on the landscape are changing. Let's be very realistic about it. And whenever I am asked, is anything happening in affordable housing, I say this to all, just go and see what is happening on the landscape. Now let me move on a little bit to the finance, because anything to talk on housing without talking about the facilitator, which is finance, both for the builders as well as for the end consumer, would be not appropriate. The general housing loans as a 55% and as a percentage of gross bank credit of PSU banks was 11.5% last financial year. Out of this, the priority sector housing, which is below 25 lakhs, while there is 38 is only in metros, and metros it's difficult to get at 38. So the priority sector, to put an average value, it's about 28 lakhs, is about 45%, which is a good thing. The housing finance companies have also lent 80% of their lending to individual houses, and has, as on 31/3, something like 4,24,000 odd crores on individual housing. And if we add the construction sector lending, they have about 5.20 lakh crores as of last year to the housing sector in general. With 63,000 crores of deposits, there are only 12 companies in housing finance companies which could accept deposits. Most of the funding, they rely on bank borrowings and NHB refinance. But what is also good thing about that is, and I will come to in the 10 lakh crore of outstanding, which we saw last year, about 31% of the new accounts booked in number of accounts of HFCs are below 10 lakhs, 33%, and banks are at 31%. Again, clearly saying on the new booking of 2.9 lakh crores, On an average, 30 to 31% has gone for units below 10 lakhs, where the affordable housing segment has been moving. You could not have had these figures much earlier. We have always been told that this is at 4%, 5%, and I was wondering till we realized the only measure which everybody has been using is on value terms. So we said we will for the first time collect the number of units funded, and that is showing actually a good figure. And I think in the current quarter, if we take, I even have figures, banks going up to 41% of their new units moving to below 10 lakhs. So how the government plans to achieve this housing for all? It's a grand alliance, as I always said, it's a grand alliance between center governments, state governments, because housing is a state subject, urban local bodies, public agencies, private builders, housing finance companies, banks, the financial intermediaries, and more importantly, the customers. We are all agents, executors, and implementers of this grand goal, which is housing for all. But executing such a large project is going to need a sustainable commitment, great dedication, and an utmost devotion from all our sides. If you take the four key pillars which we take, one is the in-situ redevelopment, which the state governments run. Maharashtra and Gujarat have shown some tremendous progress there, where they've almost made it self-financing by the builder being allowed to build commercial houses or commercial spaces in that same area. The credit link subsidy, so far we have done about 280, Rishi? 276 crores out of the total 280 crores given, which has by far taken any of the other schemes which has run so much earlier. The housing finance companies again constitute about 80% of this, and we see a very good offtake as we walk across the country, when we do our workshops, when we meet. You could meet actually the customers who are getting that loan, who are an auto rickshaw driver, probably a sub-staff in a school, a policeman. So the benefit is actually reaching to the people whom it is intended to reach. The central government on all its schemes, they have three more schemes, as you know. One is the PPP, private-public partnerships. And fourth, a large portion in our country depend on individual houses. Scheme has been stayed. If the state government notifies an area, the central government will give it subsidy. As on date, the subsidy committed is 22,000 crores. And today morning, Honorable Minister Venkaiah Naidu ji announced the total value of the schemes is about 66,000 crores, spanning to about 8 or 9 lakh houses. On the Grameen side, the new scheme has been announced by Honorable Prime Minister 2 weeks ago, where the loan component would work out roughly between 70 to 80,000, and the rest coming as a direct benefit transfer to the identified beneficiaries. The Rural Ministry, in conjunction with the state governments, is in the process of freezing about 2.83 crores of beneficiaries who would come under the scheme. And 1 crore Paka permanent houses for the rural poor in next 3 years is the goal to get the scheme. We already, from National Housing Bank, we already have a rural housing fund where we refinance the housing finance companies and banks. So far we have done about 15 lakh crores. We have got the next allocation of 6,000 crores. So under the new census, whichever is identified as rural housing, people could use that. There are 81 housing finance companies which is registered, which we always facilitate the new registration, subject to them meeting all the norms and clearances from other regulators. Our regulation and supervision is intended more as a help to these companies to follow the norms. And on the promotion and development, we are willing to take even an equity partnership if there are new housing finance companies which are coming up in the affordable housing sector. We already have it. There are a couple of companies who are today, like a Centbank Housing or Mahindra, NHB has taken an equity partnership. With the Jan Dhan Look at the whole landscape, how is it changing. With the Jan Dhan Yojana picking up, of course, 74,000 crores is due to the recent withdrawal of higher denomination notes. But if you leave the 74, it was used to be averaging about 28 to 30,000 and odd crores. With the technology reaching almost most of the villages, the banking correspondent coming in, look at the mobile penetration of more than a crore, look at the changes which is happening. The delivery mechanisms which used to be quite costly could be routed through electronically for both banks and HFCs even at a housing loan. Of course, there is one of my friends joked, he said the mobile growth has spawned a new problem. So this boy in a village went to the doctor and said all that he had was a stomach upset and probably the resultant of it was a loosies, but he cannot say that. So he said, since morning I have unlimited free outgoing and new ringtones. No balance in my stomach, and when I recharge, the balance becomes nil. Can you please discontinue? But the fact is that even at a village level, there is electronic, mobile, and the electronic, some sort of electronic payment or transaction facilitation, which is again in a way will help when the companies are able to adopt and deliver even a housing loan through the electronic media. And some of the companies are already working on it on a big way. What National Housing Bank, which is standing probably like a solid rock on the housing finance sector to develop it, is doing. One is the credit linked subsidy scheme, which I said. We are also working to bring out a reoriented Residex, which hopefully should serve as a clear index for all the reference points, which we are working with some of the private players as well as the government agencies. We have also, I'm going to cover the stamp duty a little later and do research studies in property insurance and land acquisition, especially the property insurance from a viewpoint of affordable housing. Is it really benefiting the customers? We have increased the minimum requirement from 2 crores to 10 crores. There is some opinion even 10 crores for housing finance companies is much less. We would revisit that at the appropriate time. And completely moving everything to online, including our data submission will completely move online from January 1st. And we are working on completely moving the refinance entire process to online shortly. The cumulative disbursements, and we do only for individual housing loans refinance as of now. The project finance is a different wing. Cumulative disbursements of 1.66 lakh crores. And last year we did about 21,500 and odd crores on our refinance. I would like to take a few minutes on the stamp duty, especially on the affordable housing. We did a study while various state governments came in and said they've reduced it. The stamp duty, as most of you know, has 4 components, namely stamp duty, conveyance deed, registration charges, and then some of the state governments in their wisdom has gone and started taxing the title, deposit of title deeds. Now, when they go and reduce at one part, they quietly go and move it at the other part. For an individual who buys a home of 12 lakhs or 15 lakhs, and the stamp duty ranges between, when I say stamp duty, it includes all 4, I am saying from the end consumer part, it ranges between 7 to 12.5%. So we are actually working with various state governments. Could you please bring it down at below 15 lakhs or below 20 lakhs level? The increased activity would compensate for you any perceived loss in the stamp duties. And now we have gone one step ahead. We have commissioned with Indian Institute of Bangalore a study clearly to see whether we could create a modeling to go and stand in front of the state government finance and revenue secretaries to tell them, this is the model, this is how it would work. It's going to be a little longish all, but I thought we will at least develop this, because every time rather than talking on without data, there are data points which we could put in front of them. Okay. What is the latest thing which is happening on the withdrawal of high denomination currency notes? The GVA growth projected at 7.8%. I have gone on record. Of course, my wife tells me that I'm a born optimist, that prices are estimated to drop in both affordable housing as well as large ones. But RERA coming in and if implemented correctly by the state governments, and the transparency coming in, we do expect, not even in the very far, a pickup of the demand on the affordable housing segment. The policy and incentives, what we had done, the priority sector lending has been done by RBI to freeze it at 28 lakhs. NHB has done his improvised refinance schemes. FDI has been allowed under automatic route for construction and development sector. And for some vague reason, all builder FDIs has to come through NHB, but we don't stop anything. We just forward it. The Real Estate Act will protect home buyers and boost investments, plus it will give you a lot of confidence when it is implemented. Look at 100 billion industry not having a regulator is never an acceptable thing. The budget tax exemptions for principal and interest for home loans, and even at the builders. Emerging markets growth will create competition for assets and new real estate players. We already see that happening. Use of eco-friendly and fast construction materials. And emerging market growth also is going to change many of the use of how we have sort of thought both on residential and commercial premises. Gidamba probably could elaborate more on that, but even commercial outlets are completely have to rethink. If Pizza Hut goes for a only home delivery, like Pizza Hut has done, all the spaces you meant for that goes off. Things like that. REITs, no corporate tax, tax bonds by individuals, no withholding tax. Of course, in the present structure, it benefits more of commercial real estate. Area restriction on floor area have been removed, and if I remember right, even the minimum amount has been removed by RBI. We have worked and made LTV to 90%, and here LTV could include stamp duty and registration funding for the houses below 30 lakhs. Risk weight also reduced on the individual housing, both for banks as well as for the housing finance companies. So overall, for the affordable housing sector, we see a good trend. But only the challenge in front of us and many agencies, how do we give that fillip and make it run faster? It's Captain Raghu of the Indian Army who once said in one of his speeches, soldiers do not go to war because they hate the enemies in front. They go to war because they love their countrymen at the back. We have taken the housing for goal as our war cry, as we owe it to our countrymen to make this, as we owe it to our countrymen. And we want to make this as a success. As our Prime Minister once puts it, this goal would go towards making the hopeful today of a countryman to a wish fulfilled tomorrow. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable time. May I now request Venkat Shankar, Executive Director, HT Media Limited, to present to Shri Sriram Kalyanaraman a token of appreciation for his valuable time. Moving on to our panel discussion on the topic affordable housing, a myth or a reality. May I please invite our experts on stage. Ashwinder Raj Singh, Chief Executive Officer, Residential Services, JLL India. Gitambar Anand, President, CREDAI and CMD, ATS Infrastructure Limited. Ravindra Rao, Chief Executive Officer, Grihashakti, Fullerton, India Home Finance. Alok Kumar Chaudhary, Chief General Manager, State Bank of India. Vineet Relia, Managing Director, Sare Homes. And the moderator, Girish Chandra Prasad, Mint.
On.